So today I want to talk about SKUs, and it's something I believe is really important for small businesses to pick up to help them track inventory. Hey guys, welcome to another Emii Creations video, and for those who are new here, my name is Emily, and I am the owner of Emii Creations, which is a small business where I convert my art into merchandise like t-shirts, stickers, prints, cards, and I sell them in the retail and wholesale environment. So for those not familiar with SKU, it stands for Stock Keeping Unit. And it's basically a series of numbers and letters that we use internally in our company to help with inventory tracking. So they aren't the barcodes or like the labels that you see in big box stores. They're basically something we use to help our own business out internally. And I'll have plenty of examples later on in the video for you to check out. So the first question people usually have is, why are we even needing to use SKUs? SKUs are a great way to track inventory by slapping on a unique identifier. So when I mean unique identifier, it means every single product, including variations within a product, like sizing for shirts or color for bags, those all have a unique SKU that is not replicated on any other product. So this allows you to reference a product quickly and without any confusion. A lot of online selling platforms also allow space for you to input SKUs. Etsy, Square, Trunks, Soho, most e-commerce and most product management systems will have places for you to reference your product or label your product under a SKU category. So this is great if you're using multiple platforms, and across multiple platforms, usually they have SEO requirements, so your titles may be very different on different platforms. If you're working with several individuals in your company, like you hired some people to help you package, your order forms ideally would have the SKUs on them as well as the title. So SKUs are like universal across company way to reference one of your products. I personally use this system a lot because sometimes a lot of my products have very confusing, or if people aren't familiar with the lingo or the characters that are on the products, they won't necessarily know the name of it, but they can always pinpoint the SKU of the product and refer to that when they're talking to me. So they're like, oh, I pulled the product of this SKU, we're out of this SKU, we need order more of this SKU. So you can definitely start referencing any of your product really quickly that way across your workers, across your clients, and all that. Another great use of SKUs that I personally use as well is SKUs can be converted into barcodes. So I'm going to have a video next week going over how to create barcodes for your small businesses and how to attach it to something like Square, which is an awesome free inventory management system as well as a payment platform. So let's go over how to create SKUs and what formulas are popular in the industry right now. So I feel like every single company does this a little differently, and it's always because their internal system are a little different, whether they only do cards so they don't need to reference different products, or if they want their SKUs to be shorter, or if they want to use more numbers than letters in their SKUs. It all depends on how you work and how you feel is best for your company. But I'm going to show you a few tips and go through the way I create SKUs, and hopefully it'll help you create yours. So the first thing I want to know is most SKUs have sections, and each section is usually separated by dashes. And my SKU is the first one listed in purple, and I'll be going through every single section within my own SKU to show you why I made those decisions as we go. So let's break down my SKUs. The first section is usually the overarching, like the bigger category section. For me, I did categories. Categories can be, for example, t-shirts, keychains, prints, necklace, or jewelry if you want to go higher level category. The higher level you go, the better it is. So sometimes if you don't want to do t-shirt specifically, you can even do like clothes and then go down to t-shirt. So experiment with a lot of variations to see which one fits your company the best. So for me, I chose to do TEE for t-shirt. Now there's a lot of ways to acronym or shorten the category names or any names you're going to use. It depends on what is easier for you to remember and read. A lot of people, just for consistency, will probably just take the first 3 letters. That's probably the best way to do it. So for t-shirts, you do TSH. I did T because I just remember it better that way. So that's like a personal thing for me. So here are some examples of that. And section 2 is more attribute, subcategory groupings. I use this personally for my product line. So I have a few product lines ongoing in my own brand. One of them I always name my product lines as well. One of them I refer to as Foodie Life, which is all the little foodie characters with little faces. And I acronym them into FDL. So every single product that is in that line has an FDL in the middle. So it's easy for me to pick out like, oh, how many products do I have in this product line at this moment by just searching FDL. So that's why I did it that way. Other examples or ideas that you can maybe utilize, if you do something like clothing, you can do woman, so WOM, and then the other subcategory you would have would be men, MEN. Or if you're doing something like prints, you can separate them into like watercolor prints versus digital versus like acrylic prints. If you really want to go that specific, you can. So there's some examples for you. So section 3 is a little different. Some people suggest using numbers. So it's ordered by when you create it. So you know like, oh, this was created first. This is the oldest of this category. And this is the newest one, vice versa. And it's definitely easier to add to. So if you create really fast and a lot of products, you might want to do the numbering system. So you're not bogged down by like, oh, what was this? Or having to create like unique 3-letter variations of each product. I kind of go back and forth of like whether or not I want to switch my system over to numbering. But for now, I use the actual lettering system for my third section. So for example, mine is USUK because the design on my shirt that this specific SKU refers to is my You Suck shirt. So it's definitely more immediately recognizable. So when I look at my SKU, I automatically know it's referring to the You Suck shirt. Whereas if you're using a numbering system, 0, 1, 0, you might not know immediately what card or what t-shirt that is. So that's the trade-off between that. It's easier to add on to, but it's less recognizable if you want to immediately know what your SKU is referring to. So definitely see what's good for your company and do it the way that feels best for you. And then the last section is usually the details. The details, sizing, color, variations, anything. If you have variations within a product, the last spot would go there. So for example, my clothing all have sizing. I just put the size on there, extra small, small, and then I do 2XL and 3XL for the larger sizes. And then the colorations, you can, like the other ones, either do, so I do black like BLK, but some people will recommend you do black the first 3 letters, so BLA. The example next to it is white, so WHI. Another example, if this pertains to you, if you have numeric sizing that you want to add in there, that's very important to your product. You can also tack it on at the end. Sometimes I'll have, if I'm doing prints and I have multiple sizes of prints, I'll put the print sizing at the very end as like a variation added to my SKU. So hopefully it was not too bad. Here are some example SKUs that I'm going to put up and just let you look at. Definitely the most important thing is make sure it works for your company. Make sure it's scalable to however many products you want in the future. Keep those things in mind and make sure you can make them unique. Each of them has to be unique. Most systems that you input it in will throw errors if they aren't. And just a few warnings or tips that I do want to mention when you are creating your SKUs. First of all, do not start with 0. Sometimes programs will throw errors if SKUs are starting with 0. because in certain programs, like the 0 represents an empty space, so it actually won't recognize the 0 and it won't match up properly. Ideally, you'll start with a letter. Starting with a letter helps you immediately differentiate it from numbers. For example, if you're using an Excel sheet and you have a row of SKUs versus a row of prices, you won't get too confused. It's like, oh, like why is it, which one's the number, which one's the price, you know? So it just helps you recognize it immediately. Try to avoid the 0 and capital O confusion. Definitely don't put them next to each other. If you do need to use the capital O and there's also zeros in there, try to like put them in different sections where one section is definitely letters and another section is definitely numbers, so you won't get confused between them. So just be aware of that. Ones and maybe I's will also sometimes be an issue, so just keep that in mind when you're creating your formula. And speaking of formulas, make sure you do have a formula and make sure you remember all the shortenings of each product category or variation so that you can be consistent across your SKUs when you're using all those shortened versions. And I personally like to keep them as short as possible. I know my SKUs are relatively long, but I do recommend if it is possible for you to shorten them more so, because if you're doing something like barcoding or if you're having to write down, which we do in wholesale at shows, where we have to write down the SKUs, you don't want to be spending all your time writing this super long SKU down, or you don't want to try to be printing out this like ginormous barcodes. We talked about this a little bit in the making the SKU section, but try to make it recognizable. Ideally, this is used for not only you, but also clients and people that you hire. So the more easy it is for you and them to recognize what this product is, the easier it'll be on your internal system. And lastly, try not to use other symbols beyond the dashes that separate the sections. Sometimes people don't even use the dashes. Some people just list out the sections without segmenting them, so that's also an option if you don't want to use symbols at all. I think dashes are okay. Maybe slashes are sometimes okay, but I don't recommend anything beyond that. So there's a quick video of my tips on making SKUs, and SKUs are really great and it really does help your company scale. And we'll definitely have a video next week about how to incorporate SKUs into a free barcoding system that's going to help you inventory manage, hire people easier for in-person transactions and all that. So stay tuned if you want that, and I'll definitely link it in the side once it's uploaded so you have easy access to that. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and I really hope this helps. I'm always trying to create content that is helpful to small businesses like me. So if you have anything, if you wanted more retail or wholesale information, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, if you have questions or anything else related to small business life, feel free to put in the comments below. Email me, contact me. I'm also live on Twitch twice a day, so my Twitch link is below and all my other socials are below as well. I hope you have a wonderful week. And also be sure to like, subscribe, and all those fun things if you like our content, so you can keep up to date on all our new stuff. And hope to see you in the next video.